let's do the next letters. Start tayo sa letter, this one, D, E, F, is also parang same integrand lang din sila, no? And let's try to see the differences from all of this. Okay, so for this case, as you can see, our equation is represented in terms of this x minus 3 divided by the square root of 9 minus x squared dx. Now, remember, this expression can be separated. So we have 0 to 2.5, and then we have x dx over the square root of 9 minus x squared, and then minus 3 dx, and then the same denominator. Now, I can integrate this each term. So for the first term, alam naman natin na if you try to let u this x squared, the derivative is your 2x. So most probably, the expression here is just a power rule for the denominator itself. Kasi alam naman natin na if we do power rule, we have 9 minus x squared. Since this is raised to negative 1/2, if you add 1/2, di magiging 1/2 to. And then you divide this by the reciprocal of 1/2, and that is 2. But then again, we have to incorporate the 2x that will be coming out from the derivative of this expression. So in this case, we have to divide that by 1/2. Okay, so hopefully nagets nyo yung nangyari dito sa ating certain procedure. And of course, don't forget na since we're dealing with the negative sign here, kailangan pa natin lagyan ng negative dito. Okay? Now, kung hindi kayo sigurado and then gusto niyo na munang i-check bago kayo mag-proceed sa next, you can do that. So, if you try to integrate this, so diba this becomes negative of 9 minus x squared raised to positive 1/2. So, doing this, this will give you your 1/2 times, or negative 1/2 times 9 minus x squared times raised to negative 1/2, and then times negative 2x, which cancels out this negative 2 here, and then matitira na lang sa atin is this x over the square root of 9 minus x squared. Okay? So later on ko na lang siya isi-simplify para kasabay nitong 3dx. Okay? Kasi kakancel ko lang naman yung 2 dyan eh. Now for the next term, we have to factor out muna yung 3 kasi ci is a constant, and then we're left out with this dx over 9 minus x squared. And diba, this is in the form of the inverse sign. So the antiderivative of this expression is the property leading to the inverse sign of x over a. So that is your x over 3 because yung a squared natin is 9. Okay, so you can always check this using differentiation. So if I try to differentiate this, so gagawin ko dyan is we have 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared over 9 kasi that is the square of x over 3, and then the derivative of x over 3 would be 1/3. Okay, and then if you try to differentiate this, so simplify. So mangyayari dito magiging 1 over square root of 1 minus x squared, 9 minus x squared, and then square root of 9 dito, then times 1 over 3. So this cancels out. So assuming naman natin negative yung, positive yung ating tinetake na value. So magiging ganito na lang yung ating form, 1 over, dx over 9 minus x squared, and then yung 3 of course is a multiplier here. So this leaves us the correct antiderivative for this term. Okay, so again, wala tayong plus c kasi we have to integrate this from the limits 0 to 2.5. Okay, and now upon substitution, so we can now cancel this one, minus 9, and then minus 2.5 squared raised to 1/2 minus 3 inverse sine of 2.5 over 3, and then subtracting the whole term for this expression. So we have negative 9, so that becomes 9 na lang, and then raised to 1/2 minus 3 sine inverse of 0. Okay, and this is this should be your answer. Now if you try to evaluate this, I'll be evaluating the answers here muna. Now you should always be using your radian mode, and the first answer for this term obtained from 2.5 would be negative 4.6136. Okay, and then I'll store the value, And then for this second term, we have negative 9 raised to 0.5 or positive 3 minus the inverse sign of 3. I mean 0. So in this case, 'di ba, kung ito magsi-0 na 'yan if we're talking about the first value, and then this becomes minus negative 3, which gives us negative 1.6136. Okay, so this is your answer, assuming that we're taking the first values na pinakamalapit sa ating Cartesian coordinate plane, no? Now, I would like to emphasize na you can check this using your calculators. So, alam naman natin na you can use your integral function. So, hopefully, nakita nyo na yan sa inyong calculator, no? So, meron dyan na ganito, and then meron dyan ganyan, and then you type in your function. So, ganun lang yan. Type nyo lang yan as it is, and then you should be able to get the same results. So, pwede siyang pan-check, no? So, ito na yung madali sa definite integral kasi you can always check. Ako naman is okay lang sa akin na mag-check kayo. Basta you have to perform this operation kung we're trying to integrate na this, kasi since this is integral calculus, you're expected to learn how to integrate. Now, this can have other values nga pala. Kasi, if you try to take the inverse sign of 0, alam naman natin na 0 is an answer for this if you take the inverse sign of 0. But if we use something like 2 pi, then that should also be an answer for this. Kasi this is any angle na pwedeng magpa-0 sa ating sign. And diba, pag sinabi nating 0 yung sign, it can be 0, pi, 2 pi, or any multiples of pi. So in this case, we could say that if you have pi, then any k where k is 0, 1, 2, 3, meaning integers. So this will give you a value of a correct value of our 0. And then how about this one? So if you take the inverse sign of this expression, so that is 2.5 over 3. So any value that is converted from, let's say, 56.44 to 69 degrees. So, any value na i-take natin na pag inad natin yung ating pi, then that is supposed to be the same answer as well. So, it should yield to the same result. Kasi, for example, if I try having 56.44 degrees, so imagine nyo sa inyong Cartesian coordinate plane, you have 56, so it's greater than 45, so around 56 dito. And then if you try taking the another 56 point something here from the negative x-axis, so that is actually equal to 123.557 from the positive x-axis. So kung mapansin nyo, that is pwede siyang maging sagot as well sa ating solution. Kaya just remember na when you have your value here and then you have 180 minus that certain value, that is also considered correct. That's why this can have a lot of answers, but we always take the answer that is nearest to the positive x angle. Kaya, di ba, this is Cartesian coordinate plane. If 0 is an answer for this case, so we use 0 kasi siya ang pinakamalapit sa Cartesian coordinate plane. So, diba, from the positive x-axis, this is around 120, let me check again, around 124, so mga around 124 to. So instead of using 124, of course, you'll be using your 56 degrees dito. But in this case, if you use 124 dito, magre-reflect is a larger value of your angle. That's why this is kind of different. It will give you a different answer. But remember dito, we will try to use always the angles na mas malapit sa positive x-axis. Okay, So, yun lang yung medyo notes ko dito sa first problem natin. Now, for the next number, medyo nagbaliktad yung ating x squared minus 9. Pero for f, kung mapansin nyo, nag-iba lang yung limits. So, gagawin ko ngayon is I will change the limits for this and then gawin natin siyang letter f ngayon. Unahin natin yung f para isang na lang dito, para hindi na tayo mag-integrate muna. So, f, and then that is 2 to 4. So, I have 2, and then this one becomes 4. Okay. So, basically, ang mababago lang dito is yung ating mga limits, no? Pero the method of integration, the process, would just be the same. Okay, so gawin ko is ibahin ko yung kulay ng values na mababago dito, no? So, if I have 9 minus x squared, that is 9 minus 4 squared. And as you can see it from this expression, yung 9 minus 16, so pwede natin i-square yung 60, I mean yung 4, pero can we take the square root of a negative number? So, in this case, hindi na siya pwede nating i-take yung ating value. Kasi hindi siya pwede, hindi siya kasya dito sa ating, I mean, hindi siya kasya. Hindi siya applicable dito sa ating expression kasi you cannot take the root of a negative number. I mean, literally you can using the complex number, but in this case, since we're talking about real numbers, hindi siya posible na, no? And again, kung dito naman is 4 over 3, so imagine, ano kaya yung value kung saan pag sinign mo yung number na yon, you will get around 4 over 3. So, diba, this is also not applicable. Hindi mo rin yan pwedeng isolve. Bakit? Kasi, any, gawin nating sign, x, or cosine of x, no? So, any value ng x dito, kahit pa yan is 3 pi over 2, kahit pa yan is 1,600 degrees. Now, kahit anong gawin natin, if we're considering your unit circle, okay? So, sa unit circle natin, alam naman natin na the maximum value of any angle na sinign mo or tinake mo yung cosine would just be equal to 1. Yun na yung highest value niya. So, imagine if you're taking an angle that will result to this 4 over 3. So, basically and mathematically speaking, nagde-define na siya sa rule ng ating unit circle. So, with this, hindi natin siya pwedeng evaluate. So, kung ganun, kung hindi na ito agad pwedeng evaluate, you can stop there kahit di mo na siya evaluate further kasi wala na tayong makukuha sagot dyan. Pero let's just proceed with this. So, kung ganun dito, we have negative, I think that will be 9 minus 2 squared, which is actually, pwede naman makuha natin yung sagot, and then this one is 2/3. So, ito, pwede nating ma-evaluate to. Okay, pwede yan. Pero since this is an expression for the whole term and then meron tayong hindi ma-evaluate dito na portion, so with this, your answer for this expression for f is that the integral, kasi that the integral does not converge. Okay, so it does not converge. Now, technically speaking, one way to check if your integral will have an answer is to check on the limits of your integration. So if the limit of integration upon substitution to any of this would practically give you an answer that is not defined, so most probably your answer should always be, or most often than not, would be a not integrable function, or it could be that it will not converge. So, pwedeng ganun na lang yun. Pwede nyo siya agad ma-check. Once na makakita kayo ng ganun, pag mas mataas yung limit of integration sa, I mean, hindi siya mas mataas, but if upon substitution sa original equation, and then kung mapapansin nyo agad na hindi siya posible, most of the time is hindi talaga siya applicable. So, try natin ngayon yung, yung letter E. Okay? So, for letter E, same lang naman sila eh. Actually, same limits siya as before. So your E is from 0 to 2.5, okay? And then you have x minus 3 and then square root of x squared minus 9 dx. Now, actually, kahit di tayo mag-integrate ito, pwede nating masabi na this one will not be integrable or it will not converge because ating 2.5 here, upon substitution to this value will yield to a negative number, which you cannot take the square root of that negative number. So you could say that this does not converge. And then we can also say na kapag ang ating limits of integration is hindi siya pasok sa domain ng ating integrand, then your expression does not converge, it doesn't have any answer. So, for example, alam naman natin na, di ba, this expression, alam naman natin na if we need to find the domain of this function, we could say that that is any value of x that is greater than or equal to 3, okay? But of course, it could be any value that is less than or equal to negative 3. Okay, so this is the domain of this function, and then the range, of course, that would be the any value na na pwedeng lumabas dito sa ating expression from the domain. So hindi naman mahalaga yung range dyan. Ang mahalaga dyan is domain. So the domain, knowing that this is your domain, you can only choose those limits na pasok dito sa ating domain na to. So if you try to do a number line here, so that is less than or equal to negative 3. So if you have negative 3 on this number line, this one is 0, this one is positive 3. So inclusive, so you can just do something like this, and then you include the arrow. And then for your greater than or equal to positive 3, so ganon siya. And then you can do this arrow. So this is the only limits that are applicable dito sa ating problem. But we had this 0 and then around let's say 1, 2, and then 2.5. So ito yung ating hinahanapan ng value, which in this case that is very impossible for this to exist at that certain point. So basically, kung i-graph mo to, syempre hindi ko alam pa yung graph niya kasi I have to plot points. Pero imagine if this is the graph, kunwari ganyan siya, no? So hindi na siya lalampas dito sa boundary natin. So probably mag-intersect na lang dyan, o kaya hanggang dyan na lang yung ating curve. And then dito is gagana na lang siya. Okay? So, kunwari, ganyan lang yung graph niyan. It's just that I want to show you na hindi na sila lalampas dun sa boundary nila, na hanggang dun na lang yung magiging values nila. Na. So, yun. Ganun yung ating isang way para ma-check if your answer would be correct. And kung nahinaan ka pa sa iyong guess or hindi ka pa pumapayag na hindi ito pwede mag-converge kasi yung domain is hindi pumapasok dun, yung interval is hindi pumapasok sa domain ng ating integrand, then you can check that on your calculator and see what happens. Kung halimbawa wala ding ipinalabas sa iyong calculator na sagot, and then most probably that's the reason behind that. The integral does not converge because limits of integration is actually not included in the integrand. I mean, not included in the domain of that function. Take for example yung ating C. Yung letter C natin, di ba? From negative 1 to 5, if you're trying to substitute your domain, I mean your limits of integration, no? Susulat ko ulit dito. So if we have negative 1 to 5 and then 1 over x dx, so kung halimbawa yung 5, that is 1 over 5 dx, which basically yung 1 over 5 naman would be, of course, integral. I mean, 1 over 5 is existing. Kung negative 1 naman ang nilagay mo dito, di ba, mag-exist din yun. So, bakit dito kayang integrate? Remember, I'm talking about the domain between this negative 1 to 5. And this actually includes your 0. So, between this negative 1 to 5, meron dyang 0. So, pag ginawa mo yung 1 over 0, does this one exist? So, in that case, it doesn't. That's why we can't integrate this letter C. It does not converge, and later on you will realize when to say that this will be expected to have a positive infinity or negative infinity, or it's just that you can evaluate in between this positive or negative infinity. But for now, let's just have a generalization that when the integral doesn't exist, then it does not converge. It does not converge. So ganun lang ang one way of checking. Always look at the limits of integration and check if they exist at the domain of your integrand. Okay, so now let's proceed to the rest of the numbers kasi medyo clear na siguro tayo doon sa ating existence of your integral. Now for the next item, let's have this. The integral of e raised to negative 3z plus sine of 3z cosine cube of 3z. And then this is integrated from pi to 2 pi. So again, based on the general linearity of your integration procedure, you can always integrate this separately. So kung dito sa una natin na expression e raised to negative 3z, the antiderivative of this would be negative 1/3 e raised to negative 3z. So hopefully, alam nyo na to kung paano integrate kasi this one is something like an extension of e raised to x lang naman. Now for this one, alam naman natin na if this is sine of 3z and we have a cosine here and then of course raised by sa power, kung maghahanap tayo ng u dito, u would be your cosine. And then if you try to integrate differentiate cosine, it will result to a sine 3z or negative sine 3z. So with this, we have u cube, meaning you can use your u substitution, and then by doing power rule, then this becomes your cosine of 4 of 3z divided by 4, and of course multiplying this by 1/3, and you make this negative. Now, how is that possible? So again, this one is power rule. So magiging 3 plus 1, 4 divided by 4. And then yung 3z, we have to take the inverse operation of that is multiplied by z. So take natin yung divided by 3 para ma-cancel out yung 3 after your chain rule. So yun lang, and then the negative comes from the derivative of your cosine. So again, if we're trying to take the antiderivative of any cosine, then the resulting should be your negative value. And then you can do the inverse. Imagine if you have u, meaning equal that to cosine of 3z. So pag dinifferentiate yung cosine, diba, the result should be negative sine. So if this is positive, then you should be getting a negative value as a sign for this expression. So this completes our antiderivative, and then we incorporate yung ating limits of integration. Okay, so basically we have negative 1/3 e raised to 3z negative, and then minus 1 over 12 cosine to the 4th of 3z, okay? And then pi to 2 pi. This is equal to negative 1/3 e raised to negative, so this becomes negative 6 pi, okay? Negative 6 pi minus 1 over 12 cosine to the 4th of, this one is 6 pi, okay? And then this is subtracted to negative 1/3 e raised to negative 3 pi minus 1 over 12, and then cosine to the 4th of 3 pi. Okay, so for this 6 pi, we know quite well that this is actually equal to 1. This cosine of 6 pi is actually equal to 1 because yung ating 2 pi is, diba, 1 yan, 0, 2 pi. So any even na numbers dito for pi would be positive 1. So this is positive 1. So this becomes positive 1. But this one is an odd number. So for every odd integer dito would be negative 1. So that is negative 1. But this is raised to the 4th power. So if you have negative 1 and then you raise that to the 4th power, so in short, that becomes positive. So this is also positive 1. Okay, so if you have negative 1 over 12 minus negative 1 over 12, that is positive 12. So these two expressions cancel out. And now we can simplify this into negative 1/3 e raised to negative 6 pi. And then this becomes positive 1/3 e raised to negative 3 pi. And remember, this cancels out. So we have 1/3 e raised to negative 3 pi, and then this becomes positive 1 minus e raised to negative 3 pi. So you can use this as your final answer kasi we have just simplified naman yung expression. Pero if you still want to express this in terms of decimal point or scientific notation, then it's still okay. Pero I prefer this form para mas eksakto yung ating sagot. Okay? So I think that's all for G. Letter G to ha. J lang nasulat ko.